Hi, this is Randle here in Texas.
And I'm Matt, here in Michigan. Today we're doing a flashback review of a 2013 film that was requested by one of our viewers, Kevin. Today we're looking at Prisoners. It's directed by Dennis Villanova and has a large star studded cast, including Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, Maria Bello, and Terrence Howard. So, Randall, what did you think about Prisoners?
I was confused by Prisoners. Not in the sense that the movie has any confusing plotline. It's actually very easy to follow, but that it seemed like it's 2.5 hours long, and it's trying to tell and get across so many things that it didn't get across quite well. I thought it was almost like it was telling two distinct stories, but that they didn't really end up coming together as well as I would have hoped they came together. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's actually really well done. It's well acted. There's some spots in there that I would prefer without, but I don't know. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I'm really curious to know how you felt about this one, having not seen it before.
I agree with you. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me too. That, like I said, the actors did an excellent role. For the most part, I was invested in the story. I wanted to know what happened to these two girls that had gone missing and stuff. I was really interested to find out, if there was a who done it kind of thing in this. But to me, I don't know, this movie had a lot of plot holes and it kind of passed over different things that was kind of hard for me to overlook, especially like instance, a lot of it dealing with one of the main suspects or whatever, how Hugh Jackman's character assaults him in the parking lot after being released, from police lockup. And they just kind of like, well, we know what you're going through, so we're going to let it slide. I mean, it's like, that's not up for the police to decide. That's up for, the victim to decide whether or not they're gonna press charges or anything against him. And then also when he goes like missing too, people kind of just brush it off as the most part was like, he probably just run off. But you would think that that would be a bigger focus if he's like the main suspect, and you'd think they would start looking into Hugh Jackman's character and Terrence Howard's character, because they would be the prime suspects for why this other suspect is missing.
Yeah, so that is actually played by Paul Dane, who's probably most famous, at least in my mind, for There Will Be Blood. I kept watching it thinking, man, he looks really familiar. He plays like the priest in There Will Be Blood. So he in this movie he's supposed to have the more or less the mental capacity of about a 10-year-old, and he lives with his aunt, and the police are just like, you know what? There's no way he could have done it, which kind of turns out to be true by some standards. He doesn't have the mental capabilities of doing this kidnapping and then disappearing the two little girls. So, but I agree with you. I thought, you know what? As soon as he goes missing because his character gets abducted by Hugh Jackman's character, and he had just had an altercation with him in the police parking lot. I'm like, the police are going to be coming knocking right away, and they didn't. I'm like, that's weird. That's a unusual omission in the script or the story. They should have come looking right away, not 3 or 4 days later, however long it is, before you really start suspecting that it might be Hugh Jackman's character. There was something about it that just, like you said, kind of plot holes that left me feeling like this is the film's thinks it's more clever than it really is.
Yeah, I can agree. The main hint I would say about this film is that it's looking at like how far are people willing to go when tragedy strikes or whatever. Does it push people to do things that they wouldn't normally do or whatever? And is it like, okay, Hugh Jackman's character is basically torturing the suspect to try to find, because he thinks, his daughter's still alive, and he's like, he's in his mind, he's like, I know he knows where, our daughters are, kind of thing. And so it's kind of like, does the, the if you get the desired outcome, does it excuse like your actions, kind of thing? his wife, who's played by Maria Bello, she's kind of like, well, he's a good person kind of thing, and he was just doing whatever he could do to find his daughters, but none of his actions actually helped find their daughters or get really any answers. I mean, looking back at that movie, I'm kind of thinking like, all right, did anything that he did actually help? And I can't see any, connection that what his actions actually helped at all.
I don't think so. Yeah, like everything he did just made the situation more complicated and than it needed to be. He wouldn't let the police just do their job. And that's the thing, like when I said that it's like this is telling two different stories. You had like the police doing their thing and then you had Hugh Jackman's character doing his thing. And yes, near the end they kind of come together in some way to sort of make sense. Like, was he right? No, he was not right. I don't feel any remorse for Hugh Jackman's character at the end when he's stuck in the bottom of a pit. Like, but one of the things that comes up very early, I mean, literally the first scene early, is that they establish that Hugh Jackman's character is a devout Christian. They go through the trouble of showing that he's got the Jesus fish emblem on his truck. He's hanging across from his rearview mirror, and then that whole thing just disappears for like a solid hour and a half. They don't talk about his religion, and then somewhere near the end, he becomes religious again, and I thought that was weird.
Well, that's the thing too, because that was kind of how they build up the motivations of the actual criminal masterminds or whatever behind these abductions. It's the whole idea is that her and her husband lost their faith after their son died of cancer, and basically they're doing this to show that anyone's faith can be taken away through tragedy. So that was the whole idea. That was their mastermind. Like, it was her saying, like, look, we've turned you into a demon kind of thing by doing this. Like, they're getting back at God by changing his people into it. And like I said, that's something they add at the end of the film.
It's so weird because, yes, like, I would have expected those beats kind of throughout the film. Almost like The Exorcist 3, where it is a kind of a big deal throughout the film. They keep on reminding you of that. You don't get that here. It's just like we have an establishment at the beginning, but then he acts completely not like a Christian whatsoever, period, for the bulk of the film, and then all of a sudden at the end it's the aunt and her ex who's actually he's repented by basically letting himself be locked up in the basement of a church and dying. and and then it's all religious at that point, and it wasn't the payoff that the film had built up. I was disappointed by that.
Yep, I agree. I think overall this film, it has some good, like tense moments where it's kind of like, all right, what's going to happen next? What's really happening kind of thing. Are they really going to go through with this? But I don't know that the structure of the film really holds up to scrutiny or whatever at all. And, like I said, even during watching it, it kind of took me out. Like some of the decisions made in this movie kind of took me out of the movie, the enjoyment of the movie. And, I like, movies kind of like this, where it's kind of like, not, I wouldn't say like murder mystery, but kind of like a thriller, like trying to figure out, what happened, how it happened. I enjoy those things. And like I said, we mentioned this before, the actors in this film did an excellent job. I mean, I don't know that anyone really did a bad job. I mean, an excellent job from all the actors, big name cast and stuff too.
just the writers, apparently.
Yeah, just the writers, apparently. Or maybe it was how it's editing. Maybe they, maybe there's different things that they took out of this film, or
I have a hard time.
I don't know.
Believing that Denis Villeneuve did a bad job editing. We're talking about, like I said, the guy who's coming up and he's going to be doing Dune. And if that's poorly edited, that's going to suck. And he did Blade Runner 20, whatever the numerals are at the end of that one. 2047, 8, 9, no one cares. He's a good filmmaker, so I would be surprised if it was bad editing. I would imagine that it was somewhere in the script, and I don't know if the script was rushed or something. But like, there's a good story to be had here. I just feel like it needed a little bit of more time, a little bit more massaging, and it would have made more sense to it. Like, to have maybe Hugh Jackman's character question his faith on screen by himself more throughout the movie, or whether or not this works in conjunction with his faith, so that way it would have been much more consistent throughout the movie. That would have helped a lot in making the ending make a lot more sense.
Well, that's the thing too. There's only one time when he's doing all this torturing that his faith is even brought up, and that's just when he falls to one knee and is basically asking for forgiveness for what he's done, kind of thing. But
Yeah, I wish I would have seen more of that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, he basically to justify him doing that, he made it so that that guy that he was torturing wasn't human. Basically, that was his reasoning behind it. It was like, well, when he took our daughters, kind of thing, that was, that's when he stopped being human. And that's another plot point I was kind of disappointed about. Terrence Howard's character and Viola Davis's character knew about this, and even though they might not have actively participated in exactly what Hugh Jackman was doing, they were accomplices to this, and that's nowhere to be found in this movie either. There's no consequences for them in this movie.
No, definitely not. And then you get to the very end of the movie where everything's revealed. So, the aunt of the character that Hugh Jackman is torturing turns out to be the guilty party. Her and her husband have legitimately snatched dozens of kids throughout the years and just disappeared them. And she ends up putting Hugh Jackman in kind of a pit, like about, whatever, 6 or 7 feet down under. And at the very, very end, you can hear his daughter's whistle. He found his daughter's whistle in that pit, and you can just barely hear it because he probably is, he's dying down there, literally. And then I'm like, oh, how dare you go to black right there? That's like The Sopranos going to black, I'm like, you're kidding me. This is a 2.5 hour movie. Don't make me guess whether or not he finds him. That ending just irritated me, like the very, very end.
Yeah, they're just gonna leave it up to you. But oh yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is such a good detective. I'm sure he finds him.
Some movies, it's okay to make me wonder, give me that extra. You decide what happens, but this one was so set on telling me, or at least not necessarily telling me, but like, here's where everything ended up, and then to end on a cliffhanger of I'm not gonna let you know. Like, oh, that's just so stupid. You've explained everything else up to this point.
And other things too. I mean, I don't want to just say about Hugh Jackman being, pushed to limits and stuff. You also look at Jake Gyllenhaal too, the detective, like what he's willing to do, times that he's broken, protocol and stuff, and has some effects, some disastrously effects, especially when they think they have their main suspect, and Jake Gyllenhaal's character loses it, and in that struggle he ends up getting one of the officer's guns and committing suicide there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting too. And at the end when he actually finds Hugh Jackman's daughter and is rushing to get her to the hospital, bleeding from his head, swerving in and out of traffic, going right in front of cars, putting his own life at risk, to get in.
The most inconsiderate traffic. He's weaving in and out and in and out, and no one's getting out of his way, and everyone's honking at him, and it's just like, dude, police car with lights on. What are you honking at him for?
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's got to build the suspense, Randall. You gotta. Is he gonna make it or not? Is he gonna make it or not? Is he gonna crash? What's gonna happen?
It'd be, just let it crash. Just let everyone die. I don't know. It's like I said, there's a lot of good stuff in here. I just felt like this movie needed fleshing out. It's so well acted. It's got a really good cast, but it just lets me down in so many little different ways. Death by a thousand cuts kind of ways.
For people who like this kind of thing though too, and have maybe a little bit more time than to watch like a 2.5 hour movie, I would suggest watching season 3 of True Detective. It has a lot of the same beats as this does too, and I enjoyed True Detective season 3 a little bit more.
And if you just want to watch a whodunit, check out Knives Out. We have a review of that, so I can post that there because that's a lot more fun of a movie. This is kind of a darker movie. Knives Out has got a lot more levity to it, but it's still just kind of a mystery that you might enjoy if you haven't seen it yet. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe. You can also check us out over on Facebook. We'll always post over there what's coming up. You'll know what's coming out a day early if you follow us over on Facebook. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. Everyone have a great day.
I'm Matt here in Michigan. See you guys.